Guys, if you've never had fajitas before, well, you need to watch this show so you can learn how to make this meat. I'll tell you what, this recipe is going to stun your friends, okay? And, well, everybody should get to enjoy this heavenly tasting dish. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we're going to be making some fajita meat. Now, this is a type of beef, a certain cut of beef. I want to teach you the right cut to use. There's actually two that are common, but one that is really the right cut. And then I want to teach you how to prepare that. There's a lot of connective tissue on it. So I want to teach you how to properly remove that connective tissue without you losing a lot of meat in the process. And I want to teach you how to marinate it the right way. Again, there's more than one way of marinating for fajita meat. There's three common ways of marinating for fajita meat. And I want to teach you all three. So you get to pick and choose. Either way, you're going to find out how to make real fajita beef the right way. This is Fajita Meat 101. Guys, come on over. Let's take a look at this fantastic meat and let's get started making fajita meat. Come on over. Okay guys, what we have here are a couple of skirt steaks. Now there's two common cuts that are used for making fajitas. One is a flank steak and the other is a skirt steak. Now the flank steak, while it is commonly used, really isn't the original or first choice. And frankly, it doesn't have as beefy a flavor as the skirt does. Now, so you'll know what the skirt is. The skirt is actually diaphragm muscle, okay? This is from the cow's belly, all right? It wraps right up under there, and in the middle cut there, that's where the center of the belly was. So what you'll see are these beautiful little cuts of meat with long fibers running this way, and these are your skirts. Now, skirt steak, wonderful beefy flavor. However, you need to know something. Skirt steak is tough. It's stringy and tough. Even though it has a magnificent beefy flavor, you have to deal with that stringiness and the toughness. We're going to be removing connective tissue that's on the back side of this that looks almost solid white all the way across. I want to teach you how to take all that off and how to get these marinated the right way. So here we have these beautiful cuts of meat, guys. Let's get right into cutting and working this up. Now guys, as I mentioned, skirt steak's the right stuff. However, skirt steak does have its faults, okay? And it has a lot of connective tissue on it. I mean a lot. So what you need is a knife that has a good point on it. You could try using a chef's knife like this, but I find that this is a little bit too much for this delicate of a job. I recommend something smaller. A paring knife with a good pointed tip on it, or a utility knife the same way. Either way, you need a nice point, not too much of a rounded blade, okay? Now, as I mentioned, there's connective tissue. Look at all that. Isn't that nasty? Some chefs call this silver skin, okay? All that is it's connective tissue, okay? So don't be confused by this. And we have it on this one. So what I want to do, I'm going to take that nice sharp knife. I'm just going to gently slip it right up under this. And what I'm doing is I'm lifting as I'm pushing my knife under. So I'm kind of lifting, push, lift and push. And this keeps me from grabbing too much of that meat. Now, once I get my knife up underneath that, I'm going to turn the blade, not straight, but just slightly up. I mean, just a hair, just like that, folks. And I'm going to gently work it down. Now, the reason I turn that blade up is to catch the connective tissue, not the meat underneath it, like I started doing right there. See how I'm working that? Now I want to tell you right now, you can't do this with a dull knife, folks. This knife is sharp. It's just a little sharper than a razor. Okay? So real good sharp knife. I'll come back the other way. Now when you're doing this, you got to be careful not to bring this knife back towards you. So don't put any pressure on it. If you are, you need to turn this around and cut from the other direction. Okay? Now I'm doing this on film this way just to let you see it a little easier. Otherwise I would turn this meat around. See there? That's coming right off. Now I want to forewarn you. There's a lot of cuts that have silver skin on them, or this connective tissue. And a lot of chefs will grab it on the corner like you would do on the back of a set of ribs and just strip it off of there. If you try doing that on a skirt steak like this, it's not going to work. Okay, what it's going to do is it's going to tear these gentle fibers apart. You can see how they're separating now. I could push my finger through the center of this because it's that delicate. Okay, I said it was stringy earlier. It is. It's stringy and delicate. Each of the meat fibers will separate from one another quickly and easily, but they're tough. Okay, so now here I'm just going to remove a little of that fat. Not much, just a tiny bit. I want to keep these bands of fat that run in between, and they run deep, so don't try removing those, okay? But when you have lengthwise surface fat like that, you can take that out if you wish. And sometimes underneath it there is a little bit of that same connective tissue. Like right there. Okay? The reason I want to leave some of my fat, I want this steak to have a good beefy flavor, and part of beefy flavor is the fat that renders through it, that tallow. And so you'll know tallow is a word that means beef fat. So that one looks pretty darn good. There's a few surface spots on this. This side will have a thin membrane on it. Don't worry about that. Don't obsess over this little bitty thin membrane on the top side of it, because A, it'll drive you nuts trying to get it off there, and B, it doesn't really remain tough when cooked. Okay, see what I mean by in between the fibers where that fat is, how they separate? Look at that. It's ready to come apart. Now right here, where it looks white and stringy, that's actually some hard connective tissue. I want to get that off of there because that will remain stringy. So I look for these little spots, and that's what you got to do, is just kind of learn to spot it. The difference between the fat and the connective tissue. Connective tissue is thin that you can see meat through. Fat has a whitish, a deep whitish tone to it, like that, and like this. Sometimes, like I said, fat has connective tissue under it, and this does, right here, right on that edge. It's off of there, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the right way to prepare fajita meat. And this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the correct thing for fajita meat. If you want the real thing, you got to get the right cut. Unfortunately, for folks like me who have enjoyed fajitas all of their life, I now have to pay a lot more for my fajitas because the thing has become popular. Used to be I could go out and buy this cut for about $1 a pound, and that was because nobody really wanted it. But now, fajitas have become popular. It's kind of caught on. And since it has caught on, the cut has gone up in price. Oops, now I'm cutting into my meat there. Turn up sharp. There we go. You can make a sharp turn against that connective tissue. And it doesn't actually cut through it too easy because it is just that tough. See how I keep turning the knife even sharper up once I start connecting meat. If you connect meat, just turn your knife a little further up. There it is. That stuff's kind of gross. But once you get rid of this, this is what makes, if you've ever had fajitas that were kind of chewy or sinewy or tough, this is the reason. It was the chef didn't remove this. And another thing, when it comes to cutting fajitas, folks, and I'm going to show you this in a little while right after we cook these things up. Something you got to remember about fajitas when cutting it. The meat fibers run this way. I mean, they're distinct. You can see them, okay? So they're running like this. If you cut your fajitas like this, little strips, then you're still going to have that long meat fiber to have to chew through, and it's going to be difficult. When you're cutting fajitas, you cut a block of meat like this, right here. Then you turn it and cut cross to the grain your little strips. That way when people bite into it, it will tear off the meat easier and they won't pull the meat out of their tortilla. So very, very important when you're doing these to cut them the right way after cooking them. I can't tell you how frustrated I get when I go to a Mexican restaurant and I order fajitas and I get a plate of fajitas that were cut wrong. I mean, it's like, really? You're supposed to be a chef back there and you're doing your meat like that? That's quite irritating. You see how when I get some of that, I just keep chasing it down. There we go. Now, so far, I haven't really removed any red meat. It's just been this connective tissue and a tiny bit of fat. Now, what I'm going through here is some of that lower connective tissue. It's that thinner stuff. And on the edge, sometimes you'll get a band of fat like that. You can leave it or remove it. It's up to you. But I find a lot of time that has a lot of connective tissue in it. So for my fajitas, let me turn this around. Whenever I get an edge that's just like this, I just go ahead and very gently trim that back. Now, did I catch a little meat? Tiny, tiny bit of it. However, you've saved somebody from chewing nightmare, okay? So, do yourself that favor. Now, as I mentioned to you before, you have some of those bands of fat that run lengthwise with the meat. And there's one right there, and it's a big one. What I'm going to do, so I don't have any thick globs of fat being delivered to anybody eating my food, I'm just going to remove some of that. I don't go deep on it, and I don't try to get it all out, because that is in part what's holding this whole thing together. If I turn it over, you see it goes all the way through right there. So I would open this whole thing up right in the middle had I removed it all. I've thinned it. That's all I've done. Up here, we're getting thin spots. That's normal. Don't sweat it. When you're cooking, there's a way of dealing with that, and we'll show you that in just a little bit. And if you'll notice, these now look longer. And they are. The meat is stretching out a little further because we've removed some of the tissue which was pulling it together. Okay? So we're getting right down to reality here. Now, something else that removing this connective tissue does for us, it allows the marinade to make direct contact with the meat and to penetrate its flavors a little easier on that meat. Okay? There we go. My meat is now ready to marinate. I just got to get this on a pan, stretch it out, and get the ingredients on there. Now let's go right into that, guys. Now before I get into the marinade that we're going to be doing here and how we're doing it, let's talk about the traditional ways of marinating a skirt steak. Now one traditional way, a good friend of mine, a very kind Hispanic gentleman, has shared his family recipe with me, and that was they use beer. And that's pretty common. It's a good common marinade. If you're going to beer marinade, what you want to do is put this in beer the night before. Wrap it up in beer in maybe a plastic bag, put it in the fridge, let it sit in there overnight. When you pull it out the next day and put it on the grill, you've got something really, really special. Okay? Now, frankly, folks, that's not my favorite way of doing it. Now the supermarkets, and this is method number 2, what you're normally going to find at local Hispanic supermarkets, they're going to take this exact same cut of meat, do what I've done to it right here, and then they're going to cover it with some annatto and sometimes some either paprika or cayenne and sometimes some cumin. And it's sort of different for each supermarket and each company. So I think they all have their own proprietary recipes, and that's cool. So that's what you're normally going to get, is just kind of a dry rub with spices. And generally that's going to be chili powders and sometimes cumin and also annatto. And they use that commonly. What I prefer, I'm not big on the annatto because it doesn't really provide much flavor. It's mostly a color thing. I like the cumin, the cayenne, which bumps up some heat, so it's going to heat up your meat, guys. If you don't like it really hot, leave this out or really go light on it. Paprika, and I like the flavor of cayenne. Paprika, fantastic. It doesn't really have much heat. It has a light flavor to it, and you can really go heavy across your meat with it. We're going to need salt. You can be heavy with the salt, guys. It's not going to make the meat salty per se. It's just going to make the marinade heavier so it will push into the meat a little easier. It's similar to the thinking of brining, okay? Also, you're going to need lime juice for this marinade. Now, the marinade I'm doing is one that is finished in an hour and a half to 2 hours. So you leave your meat in that for a couple of hours, turning it about every 20 or 30 minutes. And once it's finished marinating, it's ready to hit the grill. You can wrap this with some plastic wrap once you're finished seasoning it and put it in the fridge. Let's get on with this. I'm going to start with the lime juice. Any kind of lime juice you want, guys. You can use fresh limes for this if you'd like, but that's a lot of squeezing. I recommend just getting a bottle of lime juice, okay? Next thing, let's get some salt on those. Yeah, there we go. Cumin. I want to say something about cumin. You need to know this. Cumin is a very robust flavor. It's a very dry and earthy flavor. If you use too much of it, it will quickly overwhelm a dish. So look closely at how much I put on this. Let me zoom in just a bit here so you can really see this. You see the amount that I put on there? I'm going to keep it kind of close so you can also see that cayenne. Again, on this, it's not that the flavor will overwhelm it, it's that the heat will overwhelm it, and your meat will be really spicy hot. Okay, so don't go too heavy. As you've seen, a light coating. Now, with the paprika, if you want to turn it red with paprika, you can do that, and it's not going to hurt a thing. It's going to bring out a lot of flavor. When you pick up fajitas at a supermarket around here, they're going to be pretty much this color. All right, let's turn this over. I want to do the exact same thing on the other side. And this is sort of a cross between a wet marinade and a dry rub, guys. This is a really neat and flavorful way of doing your meat. Now it's just time to let it marinate. From here, it's all a matter of how do we grill this, how do we cook it? And the proper way to cook fajitas is on a grill. Generally, charcoal or wood-fired cook. However, you can also use a gas grill. And I'm going to teach you how to use a gas grill and get that nice smoky flavor from it. So once you've learned how to use a gas grill to smoke with, hey, you may never go back. Well, guys, it's now time to do our smoking, okay? I'm going to teach you how to prepare that grill. Now, so you know, we have our meat back here, marinating, doing its thing. But I told you, you can take a gas grill and get the flavor of charcoal out of it. And this is really simple. We're going to use a smoker's tray, okay? And this is an item that you purchase for your gas grill, often separate. It usually doesn't come with it. And it's simply a tray that's designed to hold either charcoal or wood, and it has a cover on it to control too much flare-ups. It releases lots of smoke. You get the same flavor as cooking over charcoal. Now, like I said, you can use charcoal in it. I have charcoal here. I also just have the mesquite that I normally like using. I like using good-sized chunks like this so that they will smoke well inside of my gas grill. Now let's go take a look down there at what it looks like on that smoker's tray, how to set the smoker's tray up properly, and how to get busy using it. Okay guys, we're out here with my grill. Now, this is old, it's been around for a while, I've been using it for years. This is a stainless steel smoker's tray. Sometimes these come as cast iron also. The idea is you put your wood or your charcoal right down in this, and it will smolder without actually breaking out into flames. And it'll release that smoke up into your grill. All you have to do is cook closed covered. So you see, I can put charcoal in here. I can put wood in here. That one's kind of thick, so it might cause that lid to stick up a bit. Now, when I'm cooking with a smoker's tray, I like to load it. You can tell we're in Dallas. Jets flying overhead every 2 minutes. It's part of being in the big city, guys. Remember, not all of Texas is rural, and not everybody rides horses. Now, put our smoker tray together. There we go. It's loaded and ready. Two ways of using one of these. Sometimes the cooking surface, or the heat surface rather, is very close to this grate, and there's no way of putting this underneath the grate. So you simply sit it on top of it, in the back, or over to the side. Okay, like so. I can use it top grate just like that. I prefer myself to put it under the grate. I do this because I have enough space. Now it raises these grates up about a half an inch, but you know what? That isn't an issue. It cooks just fine. All I have to do is, when I'm heating up my grill, give that time to start smoking. Once it's smoking real good and this grate is real hot, we're ready to put our meat on there. There you go, folks. That's how to use a gas grill for smoking. Easy, isn't it? Now guys, don't forget, in your marinating time, occasionally take the plastic off of the sheet and rotate these. Now, could I take everything here and put it down in maybe a glass plastic container or something like that and cover it and put it in the fridge? Yeah. Or, you know, a Ziploc bag, I could do that too. I just find that this is really handy. It works well, so I just keep doing it this way. Guys, I have the grill heating up now, and it's starting to put out just a little bit of smoke. I've gone ahead and drained out the excess fluid from my pan here. And if you'll notice, that meat is no longer that beautiful red color it was earlier. It looks kind of brown. Now let me explain what's going on here. It is actually still red inside, and it's just fine. This brown appearance is from the acid in our marinade. That marinade was actually chemically cooking the outside of the meat as it was tenderizing it and flavoring it. So there's a little bit of chemical action going on there, you know, from that citric acid. That's normal. So when you see your meat and it looks brown, don't be afraid of it. Don't be worried. It's okay. It's going to come out just wonderful. Now in a moment, we're going to put this on the grill. And when I do so, these little thin ends, I want to take them and fold them over just like that. That keeps these from getting overcooked. This one isn't so thin, it's fairly thick. But because it's so narrow, it's going to cook faster than the wide end over here. So I'll go ahead and pull it up just a little bit like so, the same way I did the other one. And that will help these things to cook even. I've been doing this for a long time, guys. Go ahead and do this. It seems a little weird, but it works. When you turn it over, do it again, and then the last 2 minutes of cooking, you can flip these down and give them a little bit of browning, and then it comes out perfect and even and wonderful. Cook time. If you have your grill set up, and I'm going to be cooking this closed top, and the reason is I want that smoke to really get around it and really flavor it. And in a short period of time for cooking, you can't do that open lid. You have to do it closed. So I have my grill set up, and it's about a medium heat. The temperature, I last checked it, was about 450 degrees. 450 is about normal for grilling temperatures. This is going to cook quickly. We're talking 4 to 5 minutes per side, depending on how you want it cooked. If you want it medium or a little pink in that middle, go for about 4 minutes per side. If you want it to be a little more done, let's go for 5 minutes per side. Don't leave it out there much longer, folks, because it'll dry out quickly and you'll have horrible fajita meat. You want it to still be juicy and tasty and have all of that wonderful smoke flavor along with these seasonings. This is good. One other thing, I recommend you get a nice plate ready to put that meat on once it's cut. Now what I've done here is I've prepared a little platter with some sweet peppers and avocado, pico de gallo, and the white front is queso fresco. It's a crumbling cheese. That's a Mexican cheese. It's just a basically fresh cheese. It's sort of like a hard version of ricotta, really dry version of ricotta. Very good, very tasty, and it's slightly salty, so it goes good on top of this, as any cheese does with fajitas. So fix yourself up a little plate of goodies that go well with it. And you're going to need some tortillas, of course. Use flour or corn. If you want to be a little more authentic, go with the corn. Let's get this out on the grill. Okay guys, we're outside in the noisy city. I got here a motorcycle. We have smoke. Now let's go ahead and get that meat right up in here. Remember, like I said, fold that end over. Isn't that beautiful? All we have to do now, guys, is let it cook and get a bit of smoke. That's going to be about, like I said, 4 to 5 minutes per side. Okay guys, I have brought this in. If you'll notice, there's no char marks on this end because we had it folded earlier, but that's okay, it's fully cooked all the way through. This is beautiful, it's delicious, it's smoky, and well, I'm ready to get at it, but there's one thing you gotta remember. When you're cooking beef like this, you don't slice into it immediately, because if you do, all of the juices will just release. You'll have a bunch of beef sitting in a pool of juice, and that's not what we're going for here. We want the juice to be retained in the beef after we cut it. So give this about 7 to 10 minutes to rest. Don't worry, it won't get too cold, it'll be fine. But let it rest. If you don't, it's a disaster. Get yourself a cutting board. Now if you'll notice, the board that I'm using now is a different color than the one I had earlier. I was using red, this is brown. When it comes to a colored cutting board system, you know, a system like we have right over here with blue, yellow, white, red, green, and brown. When it comes to these cutting boards, you need to remember each one has its own job, its own specification. Brown is for cutting cooked meats, whether it be chicken, fish, beef, whatever. Cooked meat, cooked foods hit the brown board, okay? Because it is presumed that they are safe. They have no more dangerous organisms in them to mess with other foods, so you don't worry about cooked foods hitting a brown board. But you never put cooked foods on the red or yellow or green boards. That just does not happen, okay? Wrong way of doing it. Only raw meats hit blue, yellow, and red. Vegetables hit green. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot begin to tell you how distracting the odor of this meat is. Earlier I was telling you right from wrong when it comes to cutting up this meat. The meat grain runs this way, remember? So we cut a block, and I simply cut like this. Now watch how I bend my knife back, 45-degree angle. That way you get those little strips or little belts. And the nice thing about doing this is everybody that eats your meat, your fajita meat, is going to appreciate you because it comes apart easily. Excuse me, as I enjoy the flavor. Hey folks, so you know what that looks like? Right there. Isn't that gorgeous? Absolutely beautiful, heavenly fajita meat. When it comes to stuff like this, guys, a lot of times it has everything to do with appearance, because how something looks often translates to how people receive it. Yummy, yummy, yummy looking. Okay. All right, folks, that's it right there. That's fajitas. Extra delicious. Well, guys, there it is. Beautiful, sumptuous fajita meat. Nothing like it, guys. Once you've tasted real fajitas, well, after that, you just kind of get spoiled. Let me get something to fix this up here. Enjoy a little of this. I love fajitas. And I always enjoy just a little bit of pico de gallo on mine. I'm one of those that kind of keeps it simple on this stuff. Yes. Oh yeah, folks. Fajitas are like tacos of any kind. They're always messy. But they're delicious, guys. I can't begin to explain. I've been sitting here munching on this stuff. It's so delicious. It's beefiness. The wonderful citrusy side from the acid in that lime juice comes through. The taste of the chilies and the cumin makes for this robust flavor on it. Guys, it's fantastic. You have to try this. Folks, thank you very much. Thank you so very much for watching this show. To my subscribers, I would like to give an extra special thank you to you. Guys, cheers. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, well guys, please do. I've got great recipes, wonderful techniques coming to you constantly, okay? This is gonna be a regular thing. You'll see me on Thursdays every week. Well, most weeks, okay? Let's stick to that. Now, if you haven't, like I said, subscribe, please share my videos, give me a thumbs up. I love comments from you guys, so please leave them. And you folks, well, have a good day. Goodbye.